The main objective for section 4.4 is division. And so we divide using decimal notation, and the B part is to solve equations of the time ax equals b, where a and b may be in decimal notation. And then for the C part, we simplify expression using the rules for order of operation. That should look very familiar. And we begin division by dividing, having whole number divisors. And so here's an example to divide by a whole number. We place a decimal point, let's say 7 divided by 5.88. We place a decimal point above the decimal point in the dividend, and then we divide as though dividing by a whole number. So in other words, we divide the 7 into 58, which is 8 times, and so 7 times 8 is 56. We subtract the remainder of 2, we bring down the 8, then 7 into 28 is 4 times. So 4 times 7 is 28, we subtract, and we have a remainder of 0. So so the quotient is 0.84. And so in the same way, if we look at number 9, at number 1, we divide 9 into 5.4. So you place the decimal right above the decimal here. And so 9 into 5 doesn't go, but 9 into 54 goes 6 times. So 6 times 9 is 54, and so the remainder is 0. So the quotient is 0.6. Similarly, for number 2, when we divide 15 into 22.5, then 15 into 22 is 1 time, and so we have 1 times 15 is 15. We subtract, so we have 7, we bring down the 5 is 75, and then we have our decimal point here right above the other decimal point, and then 15 to 75 is 5 times, and 5 times 15 is 75, so we subtract, and the remainder is 0. So then the quotient here is 1.5. And for number 3, when we divide 38, so 82 into 38.54, so we have 82 divided into 38.54. So we are number 3, so it's 82 into 38 is 0. That's the decimal point. Now 82 into 385, that is 4 times, and 4 times 82 is 328. We subtract that, and that is 57 and 5. Bring it down to 4 is 574, and 82 goes into 574 7 times. So 7 times 2 is 14, and 7 times 8 is 56, plus 1 is 57. We subtract, so the remainder is 0. So the quotient is 0.47. Exercises 1 through 6 are calculator exercises. So here we're supposed to use a calculator, add up these 3 numbers, and when you do that, the answer is 17.15. When we subtract 52.34 minus 18.51, that results in 33.83. And number 3, we subtract 489 minus 34.26, and that is 454.74. So these calculator exercises are really simple. And I would just encourage you to get your calculator and do that, usually in your phone or separate, whatever calculator you have. Or of course in your computer keyboard, there's typically a calculator built in or on your computer itself. And number 4, multiplying 0.04 times 12.69, that results in 0.5076. And when we divide 49 into 125.44, that is equal to 2.56. That is the quotient. And 1.6 divided by 25, that is, the quotient is 0.064. Again, these are calculated exercises, and I would recommend to do that yourself also with your own calculator. The rest is just some more exercises. For example, number 4, dividing 25 into 8. Let's do that. So when we divide 25 into 8, of course 25 into 8 is 0. That's a period, it's a decimal. And then we have 0, and 25 into 80 is equal to 3. And 3 times 25 is 75. We subtract. That's a 5. Going down the next 0. And 25 from the 50 is 2. So the quotient is 0.32. 0.32. When we divide 4 into 15 for number 5, so 4 into 15. So 4 into 15 is 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. We subtract, gives us a 3. So now it's a decimal point here. And we bring down a 0. And 4 into 30 is 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. We subtract. We get a 2. And then bring down a 0. And 4 into 20 is 5 times. So therefore the quotient is 3.75. 3.75. And here's the guided solution in example number 6. Exercise number 6. So the guided solution, 86 into 2 is 0, and then 86 into 21 is also 0. 86 into 215 is 2 times, and 2 times 86 is 172. We subtract. The difference is 43. We bring down a 0, and 86 goes into 430 5 times. 5 times 86 is 430, so the remainder is 0. So the quotient is 0.025. So far we had the divisor, divisors that were whole numbers, and now we're going to look at divisors that are not whole numbers. So here are the instructions how to proceed. To divide when the divisor is not a whole number, we move the decimal point, let's say multiply by 10 or 100 and so on, to make the divisor a whole number. Okay, so that's the idea. So we make the divisor, in this case 0.24, a whole number, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So now it looks like what we've done before, and then we move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places. We also move it 2 places to the right in this particular case because there are 2 decimals here. So now it looks like something we've done before. So now we're dividing 24 into 820.8. So 24 into 82 is 3 times. 3 times 24 is 72. We subtract the difference. is 10. We bring down the 0. 24 into 100 is 4 times. 4 times 24 is 96. The difference is 4. We bring down the 8. And 24 into 48 is 2 times, with the decimal being here. So the quotient is 34.2. In the guided solution example, we divide 0.375 by 0.25, and so we write it as a fraction. 0.375 divided by 0.25. And now we divide numerator and denominator by 100. So in other words, now we're dividing 37.5 by 25. We move the decimal 2 places to the right because we're multiplying by 100 in the denominator. So in other words, it is 25 divided into 37.5, and 25 goes into 37 one time. So 1 times 25 is 25. We subtract the difference. 37 minus 25 is 12. We bring down the 5. And 5 into 125 is 5 times. And so that would be 5 times 25 is 125. The remainder is 0. So this quotient is 1.5. 1.5 is this quotient. So what's on this line here is the quotient that would appear. So the quotient, the result of this is equal to 1.5. Let's do the same for exercise number 8. So we rewrite this as 4.067 divided by 0.83. That's equal to 4.067 divided by 0.83 times 100 divided by 100. That's equal to 406.7 divided by 83. So now we're going to divide 83 into 406.7, and 83 goes into 406 4 times, and 4 times 83 is 12. That's 332. Subtract, the difference is 74. We bring down the next digit, that's a 7, and so now we have the decimal point here. And 83 goes into 747 9 times. So 4.9, 9.83 is 7, and 4 is 74, 47, 747, so the remainder is 0. So therefore, this quotient is equal to 4.9. Again, I would encourage you to take a piece of paper and do it yourself, just to get the idea how to do this. So let's do number 9. We can rewrite this as 44.8 divided by 3.5. We multiply numerator denominator by 10, 44.8 divided by 3.5 to make the denominator a whole number, times 10 divided by 10, which is equal to 448 divided by 35. Now we write it as 35 divided into 448. So 35 into 44 is one time. 1 times 35 is 35. We subtract, that's 9. 35 into 98 is 2 times. And now we're getting to a decimal point because 2 times 35 is 70. So here we have 28, bring down to 0, 280, and that's equal to 8. So 35 to 280 is 8 times. 8 times 5 is 44, 24. So 24 plus 4 is 28. So we have a remainder of 0. So therefore, the quotient is equal to 12.8. 12.8. In exercise 10, we divide 1.6 into 25. We write this as a fraction, 25 divided by 1.6. We're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 to get a whole number in the denominator. So 25 divided by 1.6 times 10 divided by 10 is equal to 250 divided by 16. Now we divide 16 into 250. So 16 divided into 250. So it's 1 time. 1 times 16 is 16. 9. 25 minus 16 is 9. Then there's a 0. And that's equal to 5. 5 times 16 is 80. Subtracting from 90 is 10. Bring down the next 0. And there's a decimal now here. And 16 into 100 is 6 times. And 16 times 6 is 96. This is 4. 16 to 40 is 2. 2 times 16 is 32. Difference is 8. Bring down the next 0. And 16 into 80 is equal to 5 times. And 5 times 16 is 80. So it's a remainder of 0. So the ratio, or the quotient, is 15.625. 15.625. Now, to divide a number by 10, 100, 1000, and so on, we simply count the number of zeros in the divisor. For example, 713.49 divided by 100, so there are 2 zeros, and then we write the quotient by moving the decimal point in the dividend that number of places to the left. So we simply move the decimal 2 places to the left. That means it's 7.1349. If the decimal was here, moving it 2 places to the left, 7.1349. So it's very straightforward, very easy to do. Now, when we divide by 0.1 or 1/10, or 0.01, 100, or 0.001, like 1000s, and so on, again, we count the number of decimal places in the divisor, and then we write the quotient by moving the decimal point in the dividend, that number of places to the right. So here we have 3 places in the for the divisor, and so now we move the decimal 3 places to the right. So it means we need to add a 0 here. So the answer is 713,490. So it's very simple and very straightforward. So let's do a couple of examples like that. So for number 11, 0.1278, when we divide that by 0.01, we count the number of places in the divisor. That's 2 places. So we need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. Moving, when we have the number 0.1278, and we move the decimal 2 places to the right, then the answer is 12.78. And for number 12, here we're dividing 0.128 by 100. So here we have two zeros in the denominator, in the divisor. So it means we move the decimal 2 places to the left. So when we have 0.1278 and we move the decimal 2 places to the left, we'll have 0.001278. For number 12. In number 13, we have 98.47 divided by 1000. So we have 3 zeros. That means we move the decimal point 3 places to the left. So we need to add a 0 in front of the 9 to make it 0.09847. And let's put a 0 in front there. So it's 0.09847. For number 14, we have 6.7832, and we have one decimal in the denominator, in the divisor. That means we move the decimal one place to the right, from this place to this place here, so the answer becomes 67.832. So remember the difference. Here we count the number of zeros to move the decimal place to the left, how many zeros we have. And here, when we have it in the denominator, we count the number of decimals. Here it's one decimal. And you can also look at the previous examples for that. Okay, now let's solve equations of the type a times x equals b, where a and b may be in decimal notation. And so, as before, we divide both sides by a to isolate x. So let's say here we have 100x, or 100 times x equals 78.314. So we divide on both sides by 100. So the 100s cancel. We've isolated x, so we divide by 100. And as we found out, this then becomes... we need to move the decimal 2 places to the left, so it becomes 0.78314. So it's really quite simple. In example 16, we divide both sides by 0.25, so 0.25 y divided by 0.25 equals 276.4 divided by 0.25. Now we've just done this in the previous example. So y, since the 0.25 cancel, equals 276.4 divided by 0.25. And remember how we solved this problem. We multiplied numerator and denominator by 100 to get a whole number in the denominator. That means we now have 27,640 divided by 25. Remember, we moved the decimal 2 to the right. So when we divide 25 into 27,640, so it goes into 27 one time, that's 25. So the difference is 2, 26. 25 goes into 26 one time, so 25, 1, bring down to 4. 14 25 and 14 is 0. Then 140, 25 and 140 is equal to 5. Now we have a decimal, that's 125. The difference is 15. The next 0, 150, and so that's 6. 6 times 25 is 150, so remainder is 0. So then the quotient, or rather so y is equal to 1105.6. Yeah, our quotient here. So the answer to this exercise is 1105.6. The next topic is order of operations with decimal notation. The good news is that the same rules for order of operations that we use with whole numbers and fraction notation apply when simplifying expressions with decimal notation. In other words, there's really nothing new about it. So let's go over the rules for order of operation one more time. Do all calculations within grouping symbols before operations outside. Evaluate exponential expressions. Do all multiplications and divisions in order from left to right. And then number 4, do all additions and subtractions in order from left to right. Again, it's just what we've done before when we're dealing with fractions. So here's an example of the guided solution. And so number 17, we're asked to simplify an expression. It begins with 625 divided by 62.5 times 25 divided by 6,250. So going from left to right, 625 divided by 62.5 is 10. Next is times 25 divided by 6,250. And 10 times 25 is 250. And then 250 divided by 6,250 is 0.04, or 0.04. So it's simply going from left to right and following the order of operations, just as you would have expected it. So here in number 18, we follow the same rules, and that is we first perform the operation inside the parentheses, so 0.25 times 1 plus 0.08 equals 1.08 minus 0.0274 and 0.25 times 1.08 is equal to 0.27 minus 0.0274, and that is equal to 0.2426. So that's the answer for number 18. So number 19 is obviously a little bit more complex. We've got 3 levels of parentheses, braces, brackets, and parentheses. So we need to work from the inside out to eliminate the parentheses. So we start on the inside. 9.2 minus 5.6 is 3.6 times 20. Times 2.5 plus 5 times, and 10 minus 5 is 5. So 20 times 3.6 is equal to 72. 72 times 2.5 plus 5 times 5 is 25. Pardon me, it's 25. And 2.5 times 72 is 180. Plus 25. So what we have inside the braces, that expression is equal to 225. 225. That's the expression in braces. So we can rewrite this now as 20 squared, and that's 20 squared is 400, minus 3.4 squared, and 3.4 squared is equal to 11.56, 11.56, plus what's in these parentheses. There was 225 plus 225. 225. And when we perform these operations, subtract 400 minus 11.56 plus 225, the answer is equal to 593.44. So that's the final answer. So I would recommend you work on these elimination of brackets and parentheses and braces. Start on the inside and follow the steps that I took here and see if you came up with 225 for the expression here. And then the rest is fairly easy. 20 squared minus 3.4 squared, 400 minus 11.56 plus 225. And that's equal to 593.44. Here's an example on population density. The table below shows the number of residents per square mile in 5 northwestern states. Find the average number of residents per square mile for this group of states. Now remember, we find the average of a set of numbers by adding up the numbers, the sum of the numbers, divided by the number of addends. So in this case, we have 107.9 plus 42.0 plus 20.0 plus 7.1 plus 6.0 divided by, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 addends, so we divide all of this by 5. So this is equal to 183 divided by 5, which is equal in decimal format 36.6. So that's how many residents per square mile on average reside in these states. 36.6. This is the end of section 4.4.